Good evening and welcome to Argo Live, that time once a month where we gather with some of the finest brains in the marine industry. I'm Captain Dave Rowe, sitting aboard Stinkpot right here. And joining me, as always, the inimitable Captain Jeff of Argo. Say hi to the nice people, Jeff.
Hey, everybody. Glad you could make us an hour later than in the past, but hopefully you stayed up.
That's right. And we also, of course, have our other regular, Nick Gaffney from SPOTON Fishing. Hey, Nick.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
And our special guest this evening, joining us for the very first time from Panbo, is Ben Stein. How are you doing, Ben? It's been a while.
I'm good, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, definitely. Jeff, let's dive right in with what's new in Argo before we start, waxing philosophical about other topics.
Certainly will, but those that are on board tonight, if you have any questions, Argo related or boating in general, there's no set agenda or Q&A time. If you have questions, fire away. But we wanted to kind of kick it off with what we're doing right now, what we've been doing the last month, and a couple of things we've been focusing on. We did touch on it last month, but that's improving our charts, bringing in more data, more depth data, more detail to our charts. I mean, they're very clean, and we did that on purpose, but we do recognize that we need to add more things that you might see in an ENC, like shoaling and restricted areas, and shipping channels, things like that really make it a true chart. So we are working on that, but we're also bringing in more depth data, the Erie Canal, Canada Lake data, and a few things that you're gonna see over the next couple months. And Nick can touch on it, but we're bringing in much more detail within the Caribbean. So data that you're not going to see in other apps, we're going to be bringing in really good, new, up-to-date depth data within the Caribbean. And also, and a lot of this has to benefit from Nick and his spot-on experiences, but bring in relief shading. So very detailed structural data to accompany our depth data. So we're looking forward to bringing all that into the app over the next couple months. And also going to be going international. So those of you that are going to be traveling to Europe, Australia, we're hoping to start introducing international chart data as well. So that's we're real excited about finally getting to the point that we are there, that we can think about going international.
It's all good stuff. All good stuff. Are there any new features in Argo that we might want to touch on?
Well, the other thing, and I would say in addition to additional better chart data, we are really focused on trying to improve our offline capability and incrementally, one step at a time. Recently, we took all of our tide stations, current stations from NOAA and Canada, and we have taken them offline. So you can get to them and all of the forecasting data offline. So you don't have to be online for that information any longer. And that's a recent, I think that came out in the last release.
Okay. I'm just looking at it here now. Any other new items that might be of interest?
Yeah, we do have a new feature kind of related to that. I think it's a cool feature. And we get this question all the time, what is the charted data? Some people don't know. Does it include tides? What is it? As many of you know, at least if you're in the coastline where NOAA has the depth data, it's charted data is mean low level tides. So you're looking basically at low tide. You can go to the tide tables. You can find out where you are based on your location, the time of the day, what the variance might be at that time. But we've added that variance to a small bubble next to the depth gauge. So it's going to look for the closest tide station, and it'll turn on a small variance based on, again, the closest tide station to where you are. That's not been released yet, but we're hoping in the next release we'll get that out there for you.
That's great. I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for that for quite a while. One of the
Yep.
things I'm just looking right here where I am. I'm on the Appomattox River here, just off the James River in Virginia, and I'm looking at these no wake zones right here, Jeff. And I know that recently we've had a lot of questions on the support at argonav.io, our email, uh, about no wake zones specifically, and how they are getting into Argo and whether we are using them for routing. Can we, I think we should take a moment and just discuss no wake zones so people understand how it impacts routing or doesn't impact routing and how they appear. So
You're going to throw a surprise question at me here, huh?
I am. I'm throwing it right off the bat. I've been sitting on this one.
All right. Well, I wish that no wake zones for the United States and other countries were available from a common resource, and you just go get the areas, the polygons, and you throw them in the app. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Florida, I know, does have that, and that is something we can add for the Florida waters. But 2 years ago, we added a report pin for our users to start dropping no wake zone pins. And that must be the most popular report pin we have at this point. I mean, people will drop hazards, but they just love dropping no wake zone pins. And I think we're going to start to look at those. Hopefully, I mean, we might do some of our own vetting, but we'd really look, for our users. You can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. If you see no wake zone pins out there, let us know if they're accurate. We hope to take these pins and develop polygons that will adjust based on, if your route runs through it, adjust your ETA, give you an alert that you're in a no wake zone. But obviously, we've been waiting until we get enough of those pins, enough accurate pins that we feel comfortable doing that. But you're right. We have got a lot of questions over the years, and certainly they've picked up, and it may be something we try to address. But I don't know of any other app. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't know of other apps that really have done a really good job of addressing the no wake zones. You kind of have to get an idea if you're going to be going through a lot of these no wake zones. You adjust, that into your calculations for when you're going to get there.
Right. Oh, one of the things that we do have, and let me just plot a quick route here. I got to do it over here. Wrong screen, Dave. All right. So if I start a trip here, yeah, we'll do that later. We do have the recalculate button right here. And so if you're going along and you just have pulled through a no wake zone and your ETA is now out of date, it's now no longer accurate, you can always just tap the recalculate button and it will recalculate your ETA based on your current speed. So that's a nice feature that's always right there for you. So I thought that definitely bears mentioning. But yeah.
While you're there, I think you can demo one other small feature, which a lot of people aren't aware of. When it comes to the wind, if you bring up the overlay with the wind, and we do have a scale, but some people, they look at the scale, either they're colorblind or it's a lot of colors, a lot of numbers. They're not sure exactly where, you can see and I'm not seeing it yet, but there you go. You can see the streams, color streams, looks somewhat blue there. But what is the speed of those color ramps? And you can do a long press on the map at any location, and with that overlay up, and it will give you the speed and also the gust speed there. So that's pretty small there, but
4 miles an hour, gusting to 5.
pretty calm in that area. But that's something you can do if you really want to see what the speed is at a certain location. You could do a long press, and it'll provide that to you at any location. But you've got to have the wind overlay up when you do that.
Let's get closer to the ocean here. Yeah, it's a little more active out on the bay here. So yeah, so that would be 12 miles per hour, gusting to 13.
Yep.
So cool. That's very cool.
Yep. Simple little thing. I was out on a sailboat last Friday, and storm was coming in, and I was demoing the app, and I showed them that, and it showed like 27-mile-an-hour gusts, and they're like, "Oh, we better get in." And quickly turned around. We were heading out to Thomas Point Lighthouse, and it ended our trip, and they headed back to Annapolis.
Right. Nick, what are you working on that folks might be interested in seeing? Anything big there in the laboratory?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of big things we're working on. Something we won't show you just yet, but it's definitely something we can talk about, which is a new tool that we have coming up with the Army Corps data. It's a very unique way to visualize it, utilize it, and of course, filter as you need. So that's something that we've been doing in the background, alongside with a lot of bathymetric data. As Jeff mentioned, we are coming out with a special chart just for the Caribbean. This is going to feature data that you won't find anywhere else. It's exclusive to Argo. So we really want to make sure that we can enhance that cruising experience in an area where charts are traditionally not really trusted. There's a lot of variance over there. So we're excited to roll that out. And there's also some data that you'll see in the US as well that is exclusive to our charts. So we've been really pushing forward to make sure that you have the best and safest navigation on the water. So soon to come. And yeah, of course, we have a bunch of new stuff in SPOTON, but without bringing you all into the fishing world, maybe we can chime in with Ben here. We're definitely excited to have you on the call. So, thanks for joining us.
Ben, I think it's high time that we turn the floor over to you, and maybe you can just give us a quick elevator pitch as to what it is you do in the industry and who you are and how you went from cruising the Great Loop back in what was it, 2017? You did it. I knew it was a couple of years before I did it. You seem to be muted right now, Ben.
Yeah, isn't that perfect? The technology guy who can't figure out mute. Yes, you're right. I did the loop in 1617, but my name is Ben Stein. I'm the editor of a publication called Panbo, which is a website, panbo.com, dedicated to following marine technology. I write for a number of boating magazines as well as for Panbo. I write for Power and Motoryacht, Soundings Trade Only, several others. I cover the developments in the technology that probably primarily feeds the navigation aboard our boats. I have about a couple of decades of time on the water, cruising the water, and a real passion for technology. And so I kind of combined them, and here I am.
Fantastic. Not to beat around the bush, but what do you think of Argo?
I think Argo is, I think it's terrible. No, I think Argo is quite impressive as a relative newcomer into the marine navigation app space. So in general, I'm a big fan of apps as a way of supplementing primary navigation equipment. I'm a believer in some installed equipment. I'm a believer in purpose-built marinized equipment. Whether that's installed or not is actually less important to me than that it is sunlight hardened, that it's not going to shut down in the sunlight, that it is water resistant, and that the first splash that it sees won't be the last splash that it sees. But I believe that multiple sources of information is critical. So you guys just talked about some of the ways you're bringing in additional cartography, some of the things you're doing to address the fact that in a lot of cases, the government hydrographic office information isn't as complete as we would like it to be. So we augment it with various other sources, sometimes other government sources, Army Corps of Engineers, sometimes private survey data, etc. But it's that constellation of sources that gives us the accuracy that we need on the water, and bringing that together from multiple sources of cartography in multiple displays can really enhance your comfort, especially if you happen to be doing long-range cruising where you're not necessarily in familiar waters, where you're not able to rely on your previous tracks or the soundings you've done yourself.
Hmm. That makes sense to me. So what's your daily driver these days?
My daily driver these days is a 28-foot Edgewater twin outboard powered boat. Mercifully, with the engines tilted up, it draws about 22 inches, which doesn't mean that I can't find the bottom. It just means I have to work a little harder to find it. But that is also my primary test boat. So if you happen to find yourself in Southwest Florida, around Fort Myers, and see a boat with 4 different brands of radars and about 6 cameras arrayed across the front, there's an excellent chance that it's me.
Well, I don't know whether to be envious or not. That's
Well,
it sounds like a confusing setup.
you know, there's a lot of guys that love playing with toys, and Ben does it for a living. He's constantly toying with, you know, the latest in technologies, and he's out on the water testing it. So I pretty good life.
It is
I'd
indeed.
say.
It is indeed. But I actually do want to circle back because you asked me a question that I failed to answer, which was, what do I think about Argo? And I started to answer it and then I distracted myself. So I think that Argo is marrying very well several of the things that I think have been out there from some other apps in some regards. Argo is also paving some new ground, but one of the most important things that it's doing is, Jeff talked about the clean user interface that Argo is focused on bringing in a easy and not overwhelming view of the world. But Argo's doing that at the same time that it is bringing in some of the advanced features, some of the cruiser-centric features that we have seen from other apps. But in a lot of cases, people kind of have to stitch that together from various sources. So I really do like what Argo's doing. I have been watching it since before Jeff launched, and Jeff and I have been talking, and he's been telling me it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. And I'm very happy to see that it has evolved to a point that even Jeff thinks it's ready.
Yeah, it could always be better, but
it will be better.
It will be better, but we are moving fast, and it's we get a lot of compliments. You know, we do have some critics, and rightfully so. It's not perfect, but yeah, I think it's heading in the right direction. I think that's what Ben sees.
Yeah, I think you actually nailed it though. With the critiques that we take, that's what we use and fuel to make the product better. And I think that's where a lot of companies actually slip, is that they've almost lost touch of the consumers. There's a different focus that's going on behind the scenes. But realistically, we listen to everybody and we want to say, you know, what makes this your favorite product? And collectively, I think that the community is really coming together and driving something that's not just new, but, you know, it's in everybody's best interest globally.
Yeah, and
definitely.
And I'll admit, I'm starting to recognize I'm always wanting to add more features. I hear what somebody wants, and you can get to the point where you're adding too many features, and what was simple before is now somewhat complicated, not as intuitive as it once was. And that is something we're starting to recognize, and kind of going back to the drawing board and seeing how can we continue to make it very intuitive for all boaters, those that are experienced and used to other apps, or new boaters that, you know, maybe are used to a similar app on the road. But it's a constant challenge, and we're continually looking at ways in which we can improve the UI to make it more intuitive and easy to use. Definitely.
Hey, we have a question. And I think it's somebody who's following on with what Ben just mentioned. They are asking, does Argo combine multiple sources on one display? I would say yes, in a way.
Sources of depth data, I guess, is what he's referring to.
So it's probably riffing off of what I said in terms of multiple sources of cartography, and I'll give you a chance to answer. I didn't mean to cut you off, but and one of the things that I was talking about was, I'm a believer in, if you've got Navionics displayed on the installed equipment, that you use something else on a tablet. So you use Argo, you use the Argo app, and with it the charts that come with it. That way, if there's an error in either one, if there's an error in Navionics, an error in, you know, the charts that are on your chart plotter, that's probably not carried over into Argo. And similarly, if, you know, in the unlikely event that there's an error in the Argo charts, you've got another source for that information. And Jeff, I think you're probably going to talk a little bit about weaving in multiple sources too.
You are exactly right, and Dave is a believer in that too. He's constantly got 2 or 3 iPads, tablets going, Android, iOS,
and a big Windows system.
What's that?
I said, and a big Windows system too.
Yep. So yeah, Aquamap, Navionics, Argo. He's looking at all of them. In fact, I think at one point you can, if you want, you can split screen Aquamap and Argo on a tablet. So definitely multiple sources, redundancy, and we can get into that. But we are well aware of and Dave is as well, the things that certain apps do better than others. And knowing that can be very helpful as to why you might have one app up at the same time as another app.
And they did clarify, they're asking about sources of charts. So yeah, we have, of course, the NOAA ENC charts that you can look at. We have the RNC as well, which load much faster. We have our own views, which are based on NOAA data and U.S. Army Corps data and other data that we are pulling in. In Canada, there's CHS, the Canadian Hydrographic Service. And we are bringing in, as Nick was saying earlier, we're bringing in some new data for the Caribbean that nobody has. So we are definitely marrying disparate forms of data to try to build what is a more cohesive product. But I think what Ben was getting at earlier was actually using multiple products, because they all have sort of a different take on how this all should come together and be seen. So
Dave,
not to put words in your mouth.
I think you should also add, we are starting to bring in some crowdsourcing, and obviously you need to be careful with that, because you need to make sure you've got enough data and it's vetted and it's adjusted for tides and it's accurate. But we are starting to bring in data, particularly in areas where NOAA doesn't have good data, where there's a lot of shoaling, hurricanes, depth is changing all the time. We're starting to use crowdsourcing, similar to Navionics' sonar charts, so we can supplement, the government data with more real-time, up-to-date, and crowdsourced data. And that's really helped us a lot of times in the inland areas, the lakes, things like that, where we don't have government, even state data to go by.
Yeah,
right.
that falls into the, while we're on it, I guess the evolution of that technology, right? And how do we get something on your boat that you can use to contribute to our charts, be a part of the community. And ultimately, I think that now that these are becoming more compact, easy to set up, soon enough, there's just going to be a way for, all of you to help contribute. And we hope to just continuously add to our charts, which we're updating. I mean, we're making updates every day. So it's something that's constant, and that we're feeding automatically into this navigation system for you.
Right. This user is asking, speaking of features, when the data is wrong, can there be a keypad option that puts the number on the map at the location that moment, so when I come back, I can see the correct depth? I'm not quite sure.
We do have a report pin for map issue.
Yeah.
You could drop a pin and indicate that you feel that the depth is wrong. We have talked about adding a specific report pin for depth adjust, or a depth. We were thinking that more in the areas where maybe we don't have any depth data at all, and the users could add data. We have had users ask us, "Hey, I'd love to add data for you." Yeah, I mean, that's something we're talking about considering. Obviously, there's always a concern. It's crowdsourced. Is it accurate? But hopefully you get enough users and they're vetting the data. That's something we're considering.
Right. Ben, how do you feel about crowdsourced data, and do you see any sort of data privacy issues around that might crop in, or data privacy issues in navigation apps in general?
So I would say that the crowdsourcing I see fewer issues with, because that is inherently an opted-in activity. You've
right.
chosen to share, whether it's you've chosen to share a review, chosen to share the depth you've recorded, whatever it is, you've chosen to share it. There's a little bit more around privacy considerations for me around some of the social aspects that is built into a lot of the navigation apps these days, where potentially you're sharing your information in real time. And, I think that's fine if that's what you intend to do, but there just needs to be a lot of clarity and a very well disclosed policy around both what you're sharing in real time and what you're sharing historically, what's being recorded and potentially accessible. I didn't hit that other boat kinds of, but your boat was there, sorts of disputes that may find the historic location information very interesting about your boat. So that is definitely a concern. In terms of crowdsourcing in general, crowdsourcing depth is a fascinating one to me, right? Because there's hundreds of thousands, millions of boats running around, most of them with depth finders, many of them in some way, shape, or form, maybe recording that depth to quick contours on a Garmin, to sonar charts live on a Navionics enabled plotter, etc. But in many cases, that data doesn't go anywhere. In some cases, it does. But it is what sounds like a very simple problem that becomes fairly sticky fairly quickly. Is the offset of the transducer set correctly? Is tide adequately addressed? So Jeff, I hear you about the depth corrections, but boy, those have got to be big in order to take a user report and change it, because, you say it's 7 feet, I saw 9. Well, where was the tide? Or you say it's 7, I saw 5. Okay, but is your deucer maybe 2 feet down? Because there's any number of explanations for depth anomalies that may not include charting errors. The most successful implementations that we've seen, I think, collect as much data as they can and try and squash it all together to come to a few numbers, a few values that invariably don't ever replace the government HO soundings. They tend to be displayed as a layer that you can turn on and off as another source of information rather than a true correction to what's on the chart.
Yeah, I have kind of come to that same conclusion that hopefully you collect enough data, you throw out the anomalies, top and bottom, you get sort of your squishy average, and that's the best you're going to do.
All right, we have another question. I see anchorages all the time that are 4 to 9 feet different than most charts. I guess that's an observation. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely, yes,
yeah,
no question. One of the interesting things to do if you're ever, I don't know how to do it in Argo, and you guys can tell me if you can, but is to look at the source of cartographic data and look at the year in which that cartographic data may have been collected. You may find it surprising. You may find it depressing. You may already be very well aware that you are often looking at 30 to 50-year-old soundings.
Yeah, he went on to say here, same with inlets. And yeah, I mean, inlets are shoaling all the time. So,
and that's something that falls in line with the new, especially inlets, right? With the Army Corps data, what we're bringing in. And you'll actually be able to filter that view to different ages throughout the surveys. But more importantly, get an understanding as to, when it was taken, how often it's taken. And Ben, you're totally right. A lot of these soundings, most people don't understand, might be greater than 50 years old. It could be 100 years old, collected with a rope at some point in time. So, you will have variance, but that's also the importance of redundancy between charts, right? And a lot of us use multiple tools and support multiple tools. But if you have that, definitely report it to us, because, we take a lot of pride in that and really want to find, the best way and safest way to visualize that for everybody.
And I promise I'm not shilling for Argo, but that Army Corps data is really its value is hard to overstate. First of all, the Army Corps prioritizes their surveying based on known trouble spots. So if it's not a troublesome area, they're not surveying it. If it is a troublesome area, they are surveying it, and they're doing it quite regularly, where we're talking about years, decades, or centuries in some cases, the Army Corps is trying to get through trouble areas once a year or more. That data, that Army Corps data, is the predecessor to what eventually ends up in NOAA charts. But intercepting it when it's just the Army Corps data means that it's coming out much faster than waiting for NOAA to ingest that data, process it, and publish a chart update. That's a much slower process with a much longer tail. So the value of the Army Corps data is recency. It is also, as Nick pointed out, a lot of those surveys he's not exaggerating when he talks about being done with a lead weight and a line or a rope. The core surveying that's being done now is all multi-beam sonar, extremely accurate, and a bottom picture that you don't get from any other source in those trouble spots often.
Right.
I'll just talk to Argo real quickly. We have had the Army Corps data integrated into Argo for some time, but it's all blended in with the NOAA data and some of the other sources, so you can't pull it out specifically, display data that was recorded in the last 6 months or the last 2 years or 3 years. That's what Nick was talking about earlier. We're updating all of the Army Corps data, providing more accurate data, and also going to be displaying it by itself. So you will be able to go in and see exactly that is Army Corps data and look at the age of that data, that sounding that we're looking at. So that'll be coming out sometime this fall. It'll be a big differentiator, I think, with Argo, which right now just kind of blended everything together into one set chart, and that's what our auto routing is based off of.
Exactly. I'm going to take a moment right now. We have a contest going on at Argo, and I think it bears mentioning right now. It says at the bottom of this, always follow boating laws and put safety first. So don't go out there drawing tracks unless you're doing it safely. Don't get in front of a cruise ship that's trying to get into port when you're trying to draw your, anchor in this case. But we are doing a track art contest, and it really, we've had a few really interesting submissions so far. So basically the idea is you get out on the water on your boat and you start making a track and you're drawing pictures with it, hence track art. And we're going to be picking a winner in September, on September 8th, and we'll be giving away an Argo branded JBL Bluetooth speaker and some Argo swag. So that's exciting stuff. Jeff, have you made a picture yet?
I have not, but I'm going to try an Argo logo. I know it doesn't have to be real sophisticated. It can be simple art, and I'm going to try and make the logo as simple as possible. But no, I'm hoping to get out in my Grady White in the next week or two, and I don't know if I'll be successful. We'll see. I've never done that before.
Yeah. And while we're making announcements, let's announce right now, we have officially gone to 8 p.m. on the second Thursday of the month, right? Is this a permanent change, Jeff?
I think so. We did a survey, and 9 out of 10 people were looking for whether they're on the West Coast or even here, get it further away from dinner time. Although with 3 time zones, it's tough to meet everybody's. But yeah, we're going to be 8 o'clock. It's getting closer to my bedtime, but I think I can stay awake for an 8 o'clock show.
You seem to have managed tonight. Our next little get together is going to be on September 10th, of course, the second Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we hope that you will join us there. If you are not watching live now, we wish you'd watch live then, and bring your questions, bring your comments. And bring yourselves, because this is a lot of fun, and it's nice getting together with people like Ben Stein here. Ben, before we start breaking this thing up, we were talking before we went live about sort of the future of this technology and how AI might be playing into it. Do you have a moment to just sort of weigh in on that?
Sure. So, I think we are seeing AI permeate really every aspect of everything. So why should boating be any different? But the early places that we've seen AI really show up in marine technology for me have been around awareness products. So products like Lookout, Takaro Blues, Proteus, that are awareness products. They blend the input of various sensors, cameras, radars, AIS, charts, and all of these things, and they deliver a view of the water that is designed to alert you to the things that you should be concerned about. So they're working to interpret all of this data, whether it's from the sensors, whether it's from the charts, and say, hey, there's a boat there and you should probably pay attention to that. Or I see a jet ski coming across your path. Or just there's a mark there and you're headed between it and the other one, and that's good. Or there's a mark there and you seem to be headed for it. That's maybe not so good. But there's a lot of those products that are out there. I have several of them on the boat. I am testing them now. I wouldn't say yet that we are at a point where any of them are necessarily fully ready for prime time, though they are making significant strides compared to where things started. Some have also perhaps taken a little bit of their focus off of recreational marine, as they've realized that there's a really big market in unmanned surface vessels, etc. Some defense applications as well, and I think we all know that defense often has a bigger budget than recreational marine. So there's a lot there. The other area that I'm seeing, and it's funny because the Argo art made me think of it immediately. There's a community out there of do-it-yourself boaters who have for years embraced things like the Raspberry Pi, OpenCPN, and some of the more roll-your-own ways of charting and marine instrumentation in general. And with AI, they are embracing some of what used to be really embedded systems and microcontroller kinds of technology, the most prominent of which is an ESP32, as a small microcontroller that can be used as a gauge, can be used as a lot of things, but typically those are programmed with C++, and the universe of C++ programmers is smaller than the universe of boaters, probably. So
right.
So that's been a little bit, off limits to a lot of people, but AI and AI coding means that now it's possible to fire up your good friend Claude or ChatGPT and say, I have a ESP32, I have this model, and I would like it to connect to my Neiman 2000 network and show me this data. Now, if anybody really wants to play a little bit and maybe figure out a way to win the Argo track art contest, ask Claude to write a routing engine that will take a picture or a graphic and deliver a route, and then have your autopilot follow it. What could be more So
just make sure to provide the coordinates somewhere out in the ocean. And
right. Yes. Now's a good time to remind you that your autopilot, when handed a track or a route to follow, will follow it, even if it includes land, shallows, whatever. So
or oncoming vessels. Yes.
Please be careful. Please do not cede control of the boat to the autopilot. Simply let it steer while you maintain an adequate watch.
Yeah.
Precisely. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a good time. And once again, our next episode will be on September 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to mention before we close things down here?
Well, for those viewers that want to find Ben's latest reviews on marine technology, where do they find you, Ben?
Thanks, Jeff. At panbo.com. That's PANBO.com.
And you come out with weekly reviews, or?
I try to do weekly. My reviews tend to be a little bit longer, a little bit more in depth. And so I'm not as good at the calendar as I should be. And so sometimes it's more like every 2 weeks, but 3 times a month, 3 to 4 times a month, new reviews, new news items, etc.
They do a fantastic job over at Panbo too. I love reading your stuff, Ben. Captain Jeff, before we close down, we got one last question here from a user asking about how to report a routing issue. I'm guessing. I discovered a routing suggested change today. How do I best report it?
Yeah, good old Troy. I think it's a seeded question there. For those of you that haven't seen it, when you create a route, you're on a trip, there's always a button there to report an issue, which you can tap on, and that'll go directly to Dave and I. But you're welcome to use our support line, our feedback line, to send us a note, or just email support@argonav.io and give us a screenshot. We're always open to try to resolve issues you're having, understand a routing issue that occurred so we can improve our own algorithm so it routes better. But we're problem solvers. We love to hear what problems you are having with the app.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Dave, just one shameless plug here, because I see that there was a person that asked about fishing in Panama City, Florida. So I didn't want to leave that one on the table, because of course that's one of my favorite things. So if you haven't checked out SPOTON Fishing yet, of course we are owned by Argo, and we are an excellent fishing app. If you want to hit the share screen, Dave, I can show them a quick sample of what we have going on here.
All right.
Quick 1-minute demo. But we do offer excellent relief shading. We recently came out with a new feature for some enhanced contours and soundings. This is our global relief shading layer. So it loads a little bit slower, but what's unique about this flavor is that every time you zoom in, it enhances the colors to fit what's within your view. So we're gonna see the highest part associated in that white going down to the deeper colors in those purples. And it's also, it's a global tool. You can create your own waypoints. You can click on your screen wherever you want. Let me show you an example here. If we go to fishing report, you can pull up at the current position anywhere in the world, and you get these excellent charts that show you the minor feeding times, gives you some different strategies, techniques, how to set up, moon phase, pressure, tides, currents, you name it. It's all there, and it's constantly growing. So, if you haven't checked this out yet, certainly check out SPOTON Fishing. We're an affordable tool, but we offer it all from freshwater to inshore and offshore.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, gentlemen. I would say this has been a successful monthly live. And I hope to see at least the three of you on September 10th at 8 p.m. And Ben, I hope you haven't been so used up from this first escapade with us that you won't come back and do this again sometime.
I would love to.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Another Argo Live is in the can. Bye, y'all.
All right. Good night.
Good night.